Have you ever felt like no matter how hard you try, life just doesn't work out the way you hoped? You overthink, worry, try to control everything, but the more you chase certainty, the more peace slips through your fingers. You're not alone. That quiet, aching exhaustion, the weight of always having to hold it all together, is something many of us carry, especially as we grow older. But here's the truth. The real struggle isn't out there. It's the pressure we put on ourselves to fix, control, and perfect what was never ours to hold. And that's where Buddhist wisdom offers a life-changing perspective. Letting go isn't giving up. It's the key to finally being free. Most people spend their lives chasing control, thinking that if they could just manage every detail, they'd finally feel safe, at peace, or enough. But control is a mirage. It promises relief, but delivers exhaustion. You might recognize it in the way you plan your days to the minute, in the way your mind replays conversations, or in the fear that if you don't do everything perfectly, something will fall apart. This mindset doesn't create peace. It creates pressure. The Buddhists have a word for this kind of suffering: dukkha. It's the discomfort that arises not from life itself, but from our resistance to how life unfolds. We suffer not because of what happens, but because of how tightly we hold on to how we think it should be. We hold expectations over others, over ourselves, over time, outcomes, and even emotions. And when reality doesn't match our mental blueprint, we fight it as if life were a problem to solve. But here's the shift. What if the solution isn't to grip tighter, but to let go? Not in apathy or avoidance, but in trust. What if peace doesn't come from having everything figured out, but from no longer needing to? Because the harder you push, the more life pushes back. But the moment you loosen your grip, something remarkable happens. Life begins to align, not because you controlled it, but because you finally stopped standing in its way. This isn't just philosophy, it's liberation. And it begins the moment you stop thinking, what do I need to do next? And start asking, what can I release right now? We often mistake worry for responsibility. It feels like if we don't worry, we're being careless. If we don't stress, we're not trying hard enough. But in truth, worry is just noise. It fills the mind without solving a single thing. Think of it like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. You sit there, tense, agitated, exhausted, yet the problem is still there, unchanged. This is what Buddhist teaching reveals with piercing clarity. Suffering isn't born from the event itself, but from our attachment to the way we think things should be. You're not suffering because someone spoke harshly to you. You're suffering because you can't stop replaying it, wishing it had gone differently. You're not anxious because the future is truly dangerous. You're anxious because your mind is rehearsing every worst-case scenario, convinced that being prepared will protect you. But what if it doesn't? What if all that mental effort is just an illusion of control? Imagine, just for a moment, loosening your grip on that one thought that's been tormenting you. The fear, the guilt, the constant second-guessing. What if instead of trying to fix it, you simply let it pass? There's a Buddhist parable about a man hanging from a branch over a cliff. He's terrified, clinging with all his might, screaming for help. Then he hears a voice. Let go. He resists. He's sure he'll fall. But eventually he can't hold on any longer. He lets go and lands safely on the ground, just inches below. That's life. We think holding on keeps us safe, but often it's the very thing keeping us trapped. Ask yourself, gently and honestly, what have you been holding on to that no longer serves you? An expectation, a memory, a role you feel you must always play? What would happen if you trusted, just for today, that letting go could be the beginning of everything falling into place, not apart? Letting go isn't about abandoning responsibility or giving up on life. It's about releasing the invisible weight you've carried for so long you no longer even notice it. The pressure to always get it right, the fear of disappointing others, the exhausting need to control outcomes that were never yours to control. It's like wearing a heavy backpack day after day, so familiar that you forget it's even there, until one day someone asks, "Why not take it off?" And when you do, you realize how much lighter you feel, how much easier it is to breathe, to move, to simply be. That's the essence of Buddhist detachment. Not rejecting life, but choosing to stop fighting with it. Not closing your heart, but opening it, without clinging, without force. How many times have you relived a conversation, replaying what you should have said? How often have you stayed up at night worrying about a future that hasn't arrived or may never come? That's not presence. That's self-imposed suffering. And the truth is, much of it isn't even yours. You're trying to live up to expectations you never agreed to, trying to fix things that aren't broken, trying to control outcomes that belong to the flow of life itself. In Buddhism, the act of letting go doesn't mean losing. It means choosing peace over perfection, choosing presence over projection. It means allowing the moment to be what it is, instead of what you think it should be. You don't stop caring, you start caring differently. You care with gentleness instead of grasping, with faith instead of fear. And slowly, moment by moment, you return to a version of yourself that feels lighter, freer, and deeply, quietly alive. So here's a gentle challenge. Can you loosen your grip just a little today? Can you let the moment be enough without needing to fix, improve, or control it? Try it, just for a breath, just for this moment. And notice, when you let go of what doesn't serve you, what rises in its place might just be peace. Fear is a master of disguise. It rarely shows up waving flags or shouting warnings. Instead, it whispers. It dresses itself as caution, logic, responsibility. It says, "What if this goes wrong?" or "You're not ready yet." And before you realize it, fear has taken the driver's seat in your life, deciding what you say, what you avoid, and even who you allow yourself to become. But here's what Buddhist wisdom teaches. Fear is not the enemy. It's the attachment to fear, the belief that it must be obeyed, that causes suffering. Fear by itself is just energy, just sensation. It only gains power when we engage with it, build stories around it, believe it without question. The more we resist it, the more it grows. But when we face it with presence and awareness, it loses its grip. Try this. The next time fear appears, don't push it away. Don't argue. Just notice it. Say quietly to yourself, this is fear. Label it. Watch it. Let it be. Like a dark cloud drifting across a bright sky, it will pass unless you chase it, feed it, or try to fight it. You are not your fear. You are the one observing it. And that space, the space between awareness and reaction, is where your freedom lives. Think of all the times fear held you back. How many decisions were made not from clarity, but from dread? How many dreams went untouched because fear convinced you it was safer not to try? It's not that fear disappears when you practice awareness. It's that it no longer controls you. There's a story of a young monk who saw fear approach during meditation. At first, he trembled, but then he invited fear to sit beside him. "You can be here," he said, "but you don't get to speak." And in that moment of calm recognition, fear had no choice but to fade. You don't need to silence fear. You only need to stop giving it the microphone. It will come and go like the weather. But you are not the storm. You are the sky it passes through. Most of the time, what we call a problem isn't what's actually happening. It's what we believe is happening. One message left unread, a glance from someone, silence in conversation, and suddenly the mind spins a story. Maybe they're upset, maybe I did something wrong, maybe I'm not good enough. But the truth is, none of that is real. It's all imagination, assumptions dressed up as facts. In Buddhism, this mental habit is deeply understood. The mind is a storyteller, not a mirror. It doesn't reflect reality. It reshapes it through past wounds, fears, and beliefs. That's why two people can experience the same event and walk away feeling completely different. It's not the event, it's the narrative. And if you don't question the story, you live inside a fiction. Ask yourself right now, What is actually wrong in this very moment? Not what might happen, not what happened yesterday, just now. Take a breath, feel your body, look around you. Often, the present moment is calm, even safe, but your thoughts can pull you into storms that don't even exist. And the more you believe them, the more real they feel. That's the trap. But you can wake up. You can notice the story instead of becoming it. Imagine watching a dramatic film. Your heart races, your body reacts, but then you remember, this isn't real. You're just watching. That's how to treat your thoughts. You don't need to fight them. You don't need to fix them. You just need to remember, this is a story my mind is telling. It's not the truth. The moment you stop reacting, you create space. The storm settles, the sky clears, and what you thought was a problem often dissolves into nothing. Because peace doesn't come from solving every thought. It comes from seeing them clearly and choosing not to believe everything you think. In a world that never stops moving, the idea of pausing feels almost rebellious. There's always something to check, fix, reply to, or worry about. But have you ever noticed that the more you chase productivity, the more restless you feel? The mind isn't tired from thinking too much. It's tired because it never gets to stop. And like a glass of muddy water, the more it's stirred, the murkier it becomes. Stillness is what lets the sediment settle. Only then does the water become clear. This is the heart of Buddhist practice. Not escape, but clarity through stillness. You don't need hours of silence or a mountain retreat. You just need one conscious pause, one breath where you let everything drop. That pause is where peace begins. Because when you stop reacting automatically, you break the loop of worry, fear, and overthinking. You come home to yourself. Think about how often you react without thinking. A comment triggers you. A worry hijacks your mind. A ping on your phone pulls you away. But what if you paused just for 1 second? That space between impulse and response is where your power lives. It's small, but it's everything. In that space, you remember, I don't have to respond to everything. I can just be. Stillness isn't emptiness. It's the fullness of presence. When you walk without rushing, eat without distraction, or sit without trying to fix your thoughts, you're not doing nothing. You're doing the most radical thing of all, reclaiming your peace. You're showing your mind that it doesn't need to run the show, and the more often you return to this space, the easier it gets. So try it now. Just one breath. Inhale slowly, exhale fully. No rush. No agenda, just presence. This is where life really happens, not in the noise, but in the quiet underneath it. And in that quiet, something shifts, not just in your mind, but in your whole being. You begin to feel rooted, like the ground beneath your feet is finally steady. The chaos around you might still exist, but it no longer echoes inside you. Why? Because you've remembered that peace isn't the absence of noise, it's the ability to remain undisturbed within it. Stillness is not about removing all distractions from your environment. It's about not identifying with the distractions in your mind. Your thoughts come and go like clouds drifting across a wide sky. And you are the sky. You are the space that can hold everything without becoming any of it. That's not passivity, it's profound strength. We've been taught that success means constant motion, that value comes from doing more. But wisdom says otherwise. A Buddhist monk once said, if you're too busy to sit quietly for 10 minutes, then you need to sit for an hour. It's a reminder that the faster you move, the more essential it is to stop. Because without stillness, you're not living, you're just reacting. So start small. Pause before picking up your phone in the morning. Take 5 breaths before your next task. Sit for 2 minutes in silence before bed. Not to escape life, but to meet it more fully. These pauses are not empty. They're sacred. They bring you back to the present, where clarity, peace, and strength always wait. Stillness isn't what you do when everything else is done. It's what makes everything else meaningful. It's where wisdom surfaces, where your heart speaks, where life in its simplest and most profound form returns to you. Peace isn't a moment you stumble upon by accident. It doesn't arrive just because life finally slowed down or all your problems vanished. Because if you've lived long enough, you know life rarely gets simpler. There's always something pulling at you, some uncertainty waiting around the corner. So if peace depended on a perfect life, you'd be waiting forever. Instead, peace is something you practice, something you plant, nurture, and return to every single day. Like a garden, it needs care, attention, protection from the storms. And in Buddhism, that practice isn't about doing more. It's about being more present, not escaping life's noise, but finding stillness within it. Each time you choose to breathe before reacting, you're tending that inner garden. Each time you allow silence instead of rushing to fill the space, you're creating peace. Not later, not someday. Now, the mistake many people make, especially when overwhelmed, is believing peace is a luxury, something to seek when there's extra time. But it's the opposite. Peace is the foundation. Without it, everything else eventually crumbles. Ask yourself honestly, what did you do today to care for your peace? Did you protect it like you would a loved one? Or did you trade it away for one more errand, one more scroll, one more worry? If the answer is no, it's not a failure. It's a reminder, because peace isn't a reward you earn. It's a habit you build. Start with 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes at night, a walk without your phone, a meal without distraction. You don't do these things because you already feel peaceful. You do them because you don't, because your mind is busy, your chest is tight, and your soul is asking quietly but clearly for room to breathe. Peace isn't an escape. It's not a privilege. It's a choice, one you make again and again until it no longer feels like a practice, but like coming home. We've been taught that the more we know, the safer we are. That certainty is security. That if we could just get all the answers, have the right plan, predict every outcome, understand every emotion, we could finally relax. But that belief, though comforting on the surface, is actually the root of deep anxiety. Because no matter how hard you try, life won't fit into a neat little box. Here's the truth that Buddhist wisdom gently offers. You don't need to know everything to be at peace. You don't need all the answers. In fact, trying to find them all is what's keeping you from peace in the first place. Life isn't a puzzle to solve. It's a river to flow with. And rivers don't need to know where they're going to keep moving. They trust the current. You can too. Think about how often you've told yourself, I'll be okay once I figure this out. But what if clarity isn't something that comes first? What if peace comes not from solving the unknown, but from surrendering to it? From saying, I don't have to know everything right now, I just have to take one step. This isn't giving up. This is growing up. It's the spiritual maturity of realizing that uncertainty isn't a threat. It's a space where new things can be born. When you stop filling every gap with fear and just sit with not knowing, something beautiful happens. You relax. You soften. You begin to trust, not because you have proof, but because your heart remembers. Life has carried you this far, and it will carry you further still. You don't need a 5-year plan. You need presence. You don't need certainty. You need faith in the unfolding. This is how peace begins, not when you have it all figured out, but when you realize you don't need to. Letting go of the need to have all the answers doesn't make you careless. It makes you wise. Because the truth is, most of the time, the clarity we crave only comes after we've taken the leap, not before. Peace doesn't wait at the end of a perfectly planned road. It shows up when you stop trying to pave every inch of the path. Think of all the energy you've spent trying to predict, plan, and control what's next. How many nights you've stayed awake trying to figure it out, replaying conversations, imagining outcomes, preparing for things that may never even happen. Has it ever brought you true peace or just temporary relief followed by more uncertainty? Buddhism teaches us something liberating. The problem isn't uncertainty, it's your resistance to it. The craving for control, the idea that safety lies in knowing. But safety, real safety, lives in presence, in trust, in your ability to stay open even when things feel unclear. So instead of asking, what if it goes wrong, start asking, what if I don't need to know yet? What if not knowing is part of the journey, not a flaw, but a gift? Because in that space of uncertainty, possibility is born. Creativity, growth, healing, they all need room to breathe. And when you surrender to not knowing, you make space for all of that to enter. You don't need to swim upstream anymore. Let the river carry you. Let go of needing to know what's around every bend. You'll get there. Maybe not the way you expected, but in the way you were always meant to. As the Zen saying goes, let go or be dragged. The choice is yours, but when you finally loosen your grip on needing answers, you might just find the peace that's been waiting beneath all that noise. So now, you've heard the teachings, you've sat with the stories, you've touched the quiet truth behind every moment. Peace isn't something you find, it's something you uncover by letting go of what was never yours to hold. Control, fear, expectations, the chase for answers, all of it, heavy, exhausting, and unnecessary. Because underneath the struggle, there's always been stillness. Under the overthinking, there's always been clarity. And beneath the anxiety, there's always been you, calm, present, enough. Let this be your reminder. You don't need to fix everything. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to carry what was never meant for you. You only need to return again and again to this moment, to this breath, to this truth. You are already whole. If even one part of this message touched something inside you, don't let it fade. Sit with it. Practice it. Share it. Because the world doesn't need more noise, it needs more peace. And it begins with you. So let go, breathe deeply, and live lightly. If this spoke to you, like and share this video, leave a comment below what resonated most with you, and subscribe to Deepest Wisdom for more insights rooted in ancient Buddhist teachings made for the life you're living today.